Section 5. Not far to go now. Let's look at special dive table and computer procedures and a bit about using a dive computer. From there, you'll find your way through basic compass navigation and then find out how to continue your adventure so your fins don't gather dust after you earn your certification. After that, you'll get a look at the confined water dive preview. Ready? Let's hop to it. Now that you've got the basics down for using the recreational dive planner and dive computers, let's consider some special situations, like how to lower your DCI risk even further, how to handle accidentally exceeding your no decompression limit, and what you need to do if you fly after diving or dive at altitude. Although you plan all your dives as no decompression dives without required stops, most of the time you'll make a stop anyway. This is called a safety stop. It adds conservatism by giving your body extra time to eliminate nitrogen and to adjust your buoyancy so you ascend under control. To make a safety stop, you plan your dive so you can pause at 5 meters, 15 feet, for 3 or more minutes on your way to the surface. Plan a safety stop as standard practice for all your dives, but consider it mandatory if you dive deeper than 30 meters, 100 feet. If your ending pressure group comes within 3 pressure groups of the no stop limit on the RDP, or if you reach any limit on the RDP or your computer. Plan safety stops for all your dives, but forgo the stop if emergencies, assisting your buddy, rising, bad weather and so on, make it more important to surface immediately. You plan your dive within the no-stop limits, but something unplanned delays your ascent and you exceed them. Now you must make an emergency decompression stop to eliminate excess nitrogen. But, unlike a safety stop, without this stop you face an unacceptable decompression sickness risk when you surface. With the RDP, if you're no more than 5 minutes past the limit when you start your ascent, make an 8-minute or longer stop at 5 meters, 15 feet. After surfacing, don't dive for at least 6 hours to reduce the high nitrogen in your body. If you're more than 5 minutes over the limit, a 15-minute stop or longer is urged, air supply permitting. If not, stay as long as you can. Then don't dive for at least 24 hours. As an added precaution, you can breathe emergency oxygen if available, and in any case, monitor yourself for decompression sickness symptoms. Emergency decompression methods vary somewhat with the computer, so check the manufacturer's instructions. Regardless of type, all specify the stop depth and show you when it's okay to surface. It's not recommended that you make a repetitive dive after a dive requiring emergency decompression, even if your computer will calculate it for you. Remember that in recreational diving, required decompression stops are for emergency situations only. As you recall, when you ascend to a higher altitude, pressure decreases. Dive tables and most computers give you limits based on surfacing at sea level. At altitude, there's less pressure, so nitrogen in your body can form bubbles more easily after a dive. So, If you use the RDP at an altitude above 300 meters, 1,000 feet, you need to use special conversion tables and special procedures. With a dive computer, the procedures vary, so you'll need to check the manufacturer's guidelines. In any case, if you'll be diving at altitude, see your PADI Dive Centre resort or instructor about the gear you need and the Altitude Adventure Dive and the Altitude Diver course. Lower atmospheric pressure also pertains to flying after diving. The concerns are similar to altitude diving, but not identical. The dive medical community makes these recommendations whether you're using the RDP or a dive computer. First, after a single dive, a 12-hour minimum surface interval is required to be reasonably assured you remain symptom-free from decompression sickness upon ascent to altitude in a commercial airliner with a cabin pressure up to 2,400 meters, 8,000 feet. Second, after repetitive dives, diving several days in a row, or a dive requiring decompression stops, the medical community suggests a minimum surface interval of 18 hours before flying. The greater the duration before flight, the less likely decompression sickness will occur. At the present, there aren't any guidelines for driving to altitude after diving, so the prudent action is to be conservative. Flying after diving and decompression recommendations change over time, and it's your responsibility as a diver to keep up with and follow the most current guidelines. Read dive publications and keep in touch with your dive centre or dive resort. In the last section, you learned to plan your dive with the RDP as though it were 4 meters, 10 feet deeper than it really is if the dive's particularly cold or strenuous. How you do this with a computer depends on the type. Some types have sophisticated models that readjust if the water's cold or your breathing rate's high. Others may have settings that allow you more conservative limits, but if not, you'll need to make sure you always have ample no-stop time showing. It's especially prudent to make a safety stop at the end of a cold or strenuous dive. From previous discussions, you've learned a lot already about diving with computers, but it's important to keep several points in mind when using your dive computer. First, remember that computers are essentially calculators with built-in depth gauges and timers. They're no more or less valid than dive tables, and they don't track anything physical in your body. The recommendations for conservative diving with tables apply to diving with computers. Don't share your computer. You and your buddy should have your own. You end your dive based on the most conservative. Leave your computer running between dives. Most won't let you turn them off anyway, but if you pull out the battery or something, it loses its memory of your residual nitrogen. That means no diving for 24 hours or more. Let your computer shut down on its own. Generally, plan your dives so you make the deepest dive first. During the dive, start at the deepest point and progress shallower. Dive conservatively by staying well within computer limits. Try to have 5 or more minutes no-stop time remaining at all times. If your computer quits, you may need to stop diving for 12 to 24 hours, according to manufacturer guidelines. If it quits underwater, ascend immediately to 5 meters, 15 feet, and make a stop of 5 minutes or more before surfacing. After the dive, you can't just grab another one because it doesn't know how much residual nitrogen you have. If you've been tracking your dive times, depths and surface intervals and staying within RDP limits, you can continue diving with it. If not, you'll probably have to wait until the next day. Keep the wheel handy. so you can plan multi-level dives that maximize your no-stop dive time. Don't blindly accept everything your computer says. It can fail, just like any other piece of gear. Read the manufacturer's instructions completely before using your computer. You can learn more about diving with computers in the PADI Multi-Level Diver course. During your open water dives, you'll learn the fundamentals for navigation. Effective navigation makes diving more fun because you don't waste time finding the best parts of the reef. You know where you are, and you can return to your exit point with ample air. With experience, you'll learn to navigate from environmental cues. But even then, you'll find compass use makes it easier to figure out where you are and where you're going. Using a compass is based on the fact that a compass needle always points to the North Pole. By knowing where north is, you can determine any other direction. An underwater compass has 4 features you use for navigating. The lubber line indicates your travel direction. It runs straight through the center of your compass. When compass navigating, you always travel along the lubber line. The magnetic north needle is a needle or an arrow printed on a disc that rotates so that it can always point to magnetic north. The bezel rotates so you can align the 2 index marks over the compass needle, helping you maintain a straight line while you swim. Most underwater compasses have the heading references in degree heading numbers so you can record your travel direction. To navigate, first you need to hold your compass correctly, level and squarely in front and ahead so the lubber line aligns with your body center line. If your compass rides in your console, hold it like this. As you swim, you want to keep the lubber line aligned this way, so you swim straight. Look over the compass as you go rather than down on it. Point the lubber line in the direction you want to go. Hold the compass level and let the needles settle. Then, turn the bezel until you place the index marks over the needle. Now, simply swim along the lubber line, keeping the needle in the index marks by adjusting your direction as necessary. When you're ready to head back, turn the bezel so the index marks are exactly opposite their original location. Some compasses have 2 sets, so you don't have to do this. Next, turn until the needle sits inside the marks again, which faces you back the way you came. Swim along the lubber line, like you did on the way out. You're pretty close to becoming a PADI open water diver, and you're probably looking forward to your open water dives. But it's time to look beyond them and think about what you'll do after you become a diver. You need to meet people, go places, and do things. Since you don't dive alone, the more divers you know, the more dive opportunities you'll have. Get the telephone numbers and addresses of all the new friends you've made in this course. You know these divers, and like you, they'll want to go diving. Next, join a dive club. Your PADI dive centre or resort probably sponsors one, and it's likely a local PADI Diving Society chapter. And don't worry that you're new to diving. Every group has divers at all experience levels. They plan activities with this in mind, and it's a great way to learn from more seasoned divers. Dive travel's another great way to meet people. Take a trip led by your local PADI dive centre or resort. You'll get to dive, of course, and dive travel is also about the adventures of visiting new cultures and seeing new parts of the world. But don't let time and money limit you. You may be surprised how much fun you can have on local dive adventures, not far from where you live. When you first start diving, swimming around exploring is such a novelty that it seems an end in itself, and it often is. But diving's more than that. It's a personal experience about gaining the skills you need to visit the sites you want to see. It's about having the gear you want, so you can experience the underwater adventures you think worthwhile. It's about rising to the challenges you think deserving, so that your diving grows with you. Only you can say whether this means artistic challenges like underwater photography, skill challenges like navigation or search and recovery, or technical challenges like enriched air diving or deep diving, or all of these. Continuing your education past open water diver has many benefits. It introduces you to special activities and gets you acquainted with diving in different environments and conditions. It builds your knowledge, skills and confidence as a diver. And to do this, continuing education lets you meet people, go places and do things underwater. Its purpose is to help you get out of diving what you got into diving for. What's it like at 30 meters, 100 feet? Is it hard to make an underwater video? Will you find diving after dark scary or exhilarating? Get the answers with PADI Adventure Dives, which introduce you to the basics of special underwater activities. Know what they call a diver who's made 3 adventure dives? An adventure diver, of course. And if you make 5, including the underwater navigation adventure dive, you'll qualify as a PADI Advanced Open Water Diver. You can earn these certifications over time, or in as little as a single day or weekend. By learning more about diving, you get out of it what you got into it for. That's what the Adventures in Diving program is all about. Get a few adventure dives under your belt, and you'll find you love some of these activities. PADI specialty diver courses extend and broaden what you learned in the adventure dive for that specialty. Typically, you make 2 to 4 dives, and the adventure dive you made usually counts as the first dive for the whole course. You've learned that no matter how many dives you've logged, it's a good idea to get a local orientation when diving in a new area, and that the Discover Local Diving program provides exactly that. A single, supervised open water experience, so you learn about local conditions, hazards and points of interest. Likewise, you've already learned about refreshing your skills if you're out of the water for several months or more. Scuba review usually takes no more than a morning. You do some self-study, then jump into a confined water dive to polish up your skills. In the Rescue Diver course, you'll learn a lot of skills you hope you never need. It's a demanding, challenging course, and you know what? You'll love it. Virtually all who take this course cite it as the most rewarding one they've taken. You might say it's serious fun. Earn the PADI Advanced Open Water Diver and Rescue Diver certifications, then the most prestigious non-professional rating awaits you, Master Scuba Diver. Achieving this rating not only denotes your commitment to diving, but marks you as a skilled and accomplished diver. At some point, you may decide to make diving a full or part-time profession. You may be thinking about it already. After Rescue Diver, your next step is PADI Dive Master, where you sharpen your dive skills, learn to organize and conduct dive activities, and learn to assist with divers in training. Following Dive Master, you enter the Assistant Instructor course, which develops the fundamentals of teaching diving. Next, you attend the PADI Instructor Development course, a comprehensive program during which you'll learn and demonstrate the practical aspects of teaching diving. After this, you must successfully complete a 2-day instructor examination conducted by one of PADI's worldwide offices. This certifies you as a PADI Open Water Scuba Instructor, the most sought-after professional in the dive community. But at each step, you're diving, meeting people, going places, doing things. Time for a reality check and some truths about diving. For one, you're going to have dive experiences you don't like. You might get seasick or find yourself with a buddy you don't care for, or who knows. But this doesn't differ from anything else. Whatever's worth doing has less than perfect moments. They're not reasons to quit. They're reasons to do it different next time. Don't let a bad day ruin diving for you. Learn from it. Pursue what you want out of diving at your pace, and you'll have many, many happy dive memories for each one you'd rather forget. Second, it's better to have your own gear. It really is. When you have your own stuff, you dive more and dive more comfortably because you avoid the hassles of fitting into rental gear every time you want to go under. You don't have to buy everything all at once, but do if you want to. But keep this in mind and invest in your own kit as your budget allows. Third, you get out of diving what you put into it. If you ever find yourself bored with it, it's your own fault. You need to look at what you're doing and what you want out of it. If you're not satisfied, turn in a new direction. Do something new that awakens your passion and excites you. There are divers who've made thousands of dives in more than 30 years, and for them, diving is still fresh and new. They're still meeting new people, going new places, doing new things. Only you can make yourself reach for what's new and exciting in diving. Okay, so you don't look back in a year and wonder why you've not been diving. Go to your PADI dive centre or resort and do one of the following before you finish this course. 1. Sign up for a dive trip. 2. Sign up for a local dive with the Stores Club or the local PADI Diving Society chapter. 3. Sign up for a PADI specialty course, the Adventures in Diving program, or an adventure dive. 4. Invest in a regulator BCD package or an exposure suit package. Do not leave until you do one or more of these. No, we're not kidding, because research shows that people who immediately travel, get involved with a dive club, continue their education and invest in their own gear are more likely to get out of diving what they got into diving for. Plan your next step now. Meet people. Go places. Do things. Underwater. It's almost time for your last confined water dive. You'll learn a couple of new skills and polish the ones you've already mastered. There may be times you need to remove and then replace your weight system. To remove a weight belt, release the buckle and grasp the free end. Pull it clear, but hold it close so it doesn't pull you over. Whether at the surface or underwater, there are 2 ways to put your weight belt back on. For one, lie horizontally, face up. Hold the free end at your right hip, then roll to the left face down so the belt drapes across your back. Check for twists, misadjusted weights, and secure the buckle. The other way, make a loop and hold the belt behind you. Reach back and take an end with each hand, making sure your left hand gets the buckle. Pull the belt into place. Then lie face down and drape the belt across your back. Check for twists, misadjusted weights, and secure the buckle. If you're using a weight-integrated BCD, removing and replacing the scuba unit accomplishes removing and replacing your weights. You may need to remove and replace your scuba unit to adjust it, to clear an entanglement, or when entering and exiting from a small boat. Underwater, make sure all the air's out, and then take it off from the left so you don't pull the regulator out of your mouth. You can replace it by reversing what you just did, putting it on right side first, again so you don't tug the second stage from your mouth. Or you can put the unit on overhead. Lay the unit face up in front of you, like this. Note the second stage between the arms as you put your hands through the sleeves. Then lift it overhead and lower it into place. Make sure your hoses are clear and fasten the waist strap. the surface, you can take it off like you did underwater. But be sure to put some air in it so it floats. To put it back on, try making the unit slightly buoyant. Then sit on it with the tank between your legs. Put your arms in the jacket sleeves, then slip forward. Presto! The unit rises into place. Check that your hoses are clear and fasten the waist strap. OK, time to finish your open water dives and complete your certification as a PADI open water diver. Congratulations! You've accomplished a lot and come a long way. And yet for you, the adventure is just beginning.